Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of July 2nd, 2025. Happy 4th of July to all those here in the United States celebrating Independence Day. And we have to start with some news that I guess it's DC related. It's definitely comic book related. This gentleman probably made more of a name for himself as the editor in chief across the street. The distinguished competition, Marvel Comics. The news came down today, just a little while before we're recording, that Jim Shooter, longtime editor in chief of Marvel Comics, has passed away at the age of 73. So certainly a dark day for comics. You know, now is not the time to discuss the various controversies that Shooter was involved in, at various times. I know there are some people that he rubbed the wrong way. He definitely had opinions. He was definitely vocal. He had a heavy hand when it came to his decisions as editor in chief, but all for the betterment. His goal was always to tell the best comic stories. The guy broke in at age 13, 14, writing Legion superhero comics for DC.
Yeah.
The man's entire life was dedicated to comics. So, without him, there's no Valiant. Um, yeah, he did a tremendous amount for the comic book industry, and there's a lot of people out there, creators and fans, who have been influenced by his work and his decisions and what have you. And again, I know there were controversies. I know he didn't get along with everybody, and he had various feuds or whatever. But yeah, now's not the time to be talking about those things. Now's the time to remember him fondly, and for the impact that he had on comics. I mean, Marvel Comics might not even exist today without Jim Shooter sort of steering the ship. And he was the first one to come up with the idea of a big giant crossover. Now it's like, right, summer event. It's ubiquitous. There's almost fatigue at a time. But I mean, Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, right, and the toy line and everything, that was Shooter. Um,
You bet. There was.
I mean, his decisions about the Dark Phoenix saga. I mean, we can go on and on and on about the man's impact. So yeah, a sad day for comics, and our condolences go out to his friends and family. I had the opportunity to interview Shooter several times. I never took that offer. I've had sort of a complicated feelings about the man myself. Um, because of everything that I was talking about before. But again, that's neither here nor there. I cannot discount, nor would I ever try to discount his contributions. A lot of my reading, certainly junior high and what have you, that was all during the Shooter era. I think of him launching the New Universe in 1986, and yeah, I mean, I loved Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. Yeah, and just an incredible job, an incredible influence that he had on the industry. So again, our thoughts and prayers are with his family. I mean, 73 is not, he wasn't a spring chicken, but that's not.
That's still young
Yeah, that's he
in
still
this day and age.
could have had a way to go. I have no details on how he passed away or what have you. Um,
Yeah, I,
and
I
again,
come I come
yeah,
at Jim Shooter at a slightly different angle. I have a far more positive view of him, even though I'm aware of the controversies. I love comic book history, and got a lot of comic book. I got a lot of history books and like comic book history books, and his contribution is just immense. You're right. There's so much to talk about Jim Shooter. I think his accomplishments overshadowed his controversies. And but what a life! What a spectacular life! What a dream to live your dream. I mean, most 13-year-olds dream of writing comics one day. He started. He started in the industry at 13, and it's just. And I note with some degree of happiness that he starts off with Legion of Superheroes as one of his earliest works, and that's what brought me into comics in the early '70s. And my early '70s are just filled with Jim Shooter related comic books, and so it's such a loss. But tribute and prayers go to his family.
yeah. Did you ever get a chance to meet him? Any of the shows you went to? Was he ever
I
there?
never did. No, I never did get a chance to meet him. No, I did not. Regrettably.
Yeah, several shows I was at, he'd just be sitting at his table all by himself, like nobody around. I think not enough people realized what, who he was, or what accomplishments
Yeah.
um, he had done. I mean, I'm definitely a part of the Valiant comic book community, and there's no Valiant without Jim Shooter. So yeah, definitely a big loss, as we said. So anyway, on to the books this week. A little bit of a smaller week. We have 9 books that we're going to talk about. Obviously, we're going to have our rankings, including our top 5. Overall, I thought it was a pretty strong week. There was probably, like, when it came to my rankings, like the bottom 3 were easy for me to rank, and then when I got up to the rest, they were almost interchangeable. Like I could flip 1 with 6, and I would be fine with that ranking. Like 1 through 6 are all there. I felt like they were all pretty close, like on equal footing.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, I thought it was a pretty good week. And even the book that I ranked last, I have my reasons for that. We'll talk about it when we get to it. But it had positives as well. So overall, I felt like it was a relatively strong week. So, what were your thoughts on the week overall, Rocky?
Well, I thought they were generally forced thinkers for me, but I enjoyed the hell out of. It was an easy. I actually found it difficult to come up with the top 5. I actually only really like the top 3. If I'm being honest about my top 3, but I do have a top 5, and but hey, again, it's still a good week overall, and one comic in particular I absolutely love, and I'm sure you can guess which it is. So, and I'm pretty sure it's going to remain my number 1 as we talk, but maybe it'll change, but I doubt it.
Yeah, yeah, I doubt it as well. I'm sure we could all guess. We probably all guess what it is. So, let's kick it off with Batgirl number 9. From writer Tate Bromball, Takeshi Miyazawa on the art, Mike Spicer on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. So this comes in, I think, what did I rank it? Number 8 for me. Yeah, it comes in at number 8 for me. Again, it's not bad, but and one of the things that I did appreciate about it, there's several things, like this issue feels more like a Batgirl comic. For the last couple issues, this has been Lady Shiva. I don't care what the title says on the cover; it's been Lady Shiva. We're finally getting back to Batgirl having a starring role. And then I also really love the introduction of these 3 swords that are basically pursuing Batgirl, and they're all, on the title page. They're various miles away. One is 30,000 feet above her, so obviously, in a plane. Batgirl's traveling by train. Another guy's, a mile and a half. Another guy's 10 miles. And we find out where Batgirl's been going on this train ride, basically to talk to Bronze Tiger. So again, I appreciated that. I appreciated the introduction to these 3 swords, these assassins that have been sent out to kill Batgirl, and I appreciate the history that we're moving sort of past where it's the history of Lady Shiva, and we're getting into the history of Lady Shiva, the life she's led, in terms of contextualizing how that's affecting Cassandra Cain in the now, which is what I care about more. I don't care about Lady Shiva's past. I'm not a big Lady Shiva fan. It really doesn't make any difference to me, except in how it affects Cassandra Cain and again the life she's going to lead. And there's a huge revelation in this series, in this issue. So it's in Rocky's top 5. So that's all I'm going to say about it, and I'll let you expound on the rest, Rocky.
Well, first, I want to say that the reason why I think every DC lover should be reading this is that this is, while this is a Batgirl comic, this really is universe expanding in the martial arts world of the DC universe. This is expanding. This is adding to the mythology of DC martial artists. Whenever anybody talks about who's the top fighters in the DCU, the names of Cassandra Cain, Bronze Tiger, Richard Dragon, Lady Shiva, they pop up. And certainly there's other ones in there: Damian Wayne, Connor Hawk, Black Canary, et cetera, et cetera. But it's nice to see that these more human level fighters are added to the mix. And there's a very significant expansion here that expands on the mythology of Lady Shiva and adds another character. Huge revelation here. Speculator alert, guys. I want to give also want to give a quick shout out to the alternate cover here. And I don't know who did it, but man, it looks. I'm getting both covers. I would suggest everybody get both covers if you're into DC speculation. There's a major revelation here, and basically what it is Lady Cassandra Cain, after the supposed death of leaving her mother to die at the hands of that shadowy organization that Lady Shiva had a hand in pissing off many years ago. We believe Lady Shiva's dead, but she sends her daughter Cassandra Cain to look for the Bronze Tagger. She ultimately finds the Bronze Tagger, and she wants to confront him. She wants to know, why would my mother send me to you? What's so special? And we know, of course, or at least we thought we knew, that Bronze Tagger had a relationship with Lady Shiva's sister, who ultimately ended up getting killed by David Kane. Or at least that's the history that we believe is the case. I still think that's the case. However, the revelation here is that it looks like Bronze Tagger and Lady Shiva had a son. And that's the huge revelation here. The first appearance of Jade Tagger. And so it looks like Cassandra Cain has a sister. And what makes this particular issue so great for me is, number one, the revelation is great. Number two, I've been enjoying the storytelling. I think that Tate Brummel's done such a good job sort of being consistent with the history of Lady Shiva, what we know. Those of us who are fans of Lady Shiva and Cassandra Cain, particularly back to Cassandra Cain's original series, first series, this is really keeping in that spirit. And there's just lots of martial arts here. You know, the unburied and these various soldiers and warriors of the unburied are they're hunting down Cassandra Cain. They got sort of dibs on who can take her out. And these poor guys have no idea what they're about to run into. I mean, imagine going after Cassandra Cain. That's a treat in and of itself. Good luck with that. Only to run into Bronze Tagger and to find out that, oh, there's another guy called Jade Tagger who's Cassandra Cain's equal, or at least appears to be. Man, this is great. I've been loving this. And most people could probably guess it. No surprise that it's in my top 5. And I even I have to say, like, I want to give a shout out to the artist as well. I enjoyed Takesha Miyazawa on the art. Mike Spicer colors just pop off the page. This is really great stuff. You got 3 top swordsmen going after Cassandra Cain. There's a great one-page spread with Cassandra Cain riding up on a horse on the ranch that we're in the middle of a forest, where Bronze Tagger is sort of like, secluded himself from civilization, and then the revelation of his son, and just really good stuff. So high recommendation for me. Speculator alert, the whole 9 yards. Guys, check this out.
Yeah, I want to make it clear. So these 3 swords, one is from the League of Shadows, one is from the Blood of Wu, and one is from the Unburied. So they all want Cassandra Cain for, their various clans. And I imagine we'll get more information about Sword 2 and 3. This issue ends with a splash page of Sword 1. We get his clan affiliation, his preferred weapon as well, and his finishing move. So that's kind of fun for anybody who's like a fan of like fighting games or what have you, Tekken or anything like that. So yeah, and your point's well taken. It is expanding the sort of the martial arts corner of the DCU. But like I said, that's not a corner that I'm a fan of. I don't really, none of those characters. Bronze Tiger, probably the favorite of all of them, just because he's been sort of mysterious in the past. But they've done quite a bit to soften him up in the recent years. I'm not as big of a fan of that. So anyway, as far as that cover that you mentioned, it's Tirso Khans who did the variant cover. If that name sounds familiar, he's the one that did the Dark Knights of Steel Winter. I can't remember what it was called. Something Winter.
Yeah, I
the book that was the book that was basically black and white grayscale. He's the one that did the art for that. So yeah, definitely a talented artist. Okay, up next we have JSA number 9, written by Jeff Lemire. Diego Orlatugi handles the art. Steve Wands on letters, and then colors by Luis Guerrero. This comes in for me at number 6, so just missed my top 5 when I was mentioning before about the books I liked and ranking them. Like, this easily could have been in my top 3, because 1 through 6 were pretty close. I especially loved the revelation at the end. I mean, we as readers have known for quite a while that Johnny Sorrow has been masquerading as Obsidian in the JSA, and now he stands revealed. That's just a great splash page. I love the pose. I love the the line work. I just love Johnny Sorrow's look. How his head is sort of invisible. You only see him because of the mask. The art overall is strong. I love the agency of Dr. Midnight in this issue. It reminds me of when I got a chance to chat with Jeff Lemire before the first issue dropped, and he mentioned how this female version of Dr. Midnight was surprisingly a favorite of his to write. When I asked him about if there's any characters that he really loved and anything that kind of surprised him, and yeah, he mentioned that this version of Dr. Fate, Beth Chapel, surprised him how much he liked her and how much he was enjoying developing her character. So seeing her fight against Scandal Savage, in the snow in desperation, was a lot of fun. There may be people, again, I haven't read a lot of JSA in terms of like the Jeff Johns era, where a lot of these characters probably had their most character development or were they're most well known from. Like I haven't read a lot of those issues that have Beth Chapel, so I don't know if this is out of character. I don't know if seeing her fight hand to hand, seems like no, that's not who she is or what have you. If that's the case, I could see some longtime JSA fans maybe not appreciating this for that reason because it seems out of character for her. But again, I don't have that history with the character, so I really enjoyed it. If I had any reason to not rank it higher, it would just be that the pacing for the series has been a little deliberate. It's been a little on the slow side, and that continues in this issue. We don't get a lot of forward momentum for the story, but it does feel like we're about to speed things up. And I hope that's the case. But I've mentioned this before when talking about the pacing for JSA and how the line work of Diego Orlatugi, he uses thicker line weights, which leads to bigger panels, which leads to a feeling of a little bit less story in each individual issue because you do tend to have larger panels a lot of the time. So again, it's just it's sort of like a backhanded compliment in a way, right? Like I like the characterization. I like the story. I like having the Injustice Society going up against the Justice Society, the JSA, and having them be a legitimate threat, somebody that can really threaten these generational heroes. There's stakes, and I like that. But again, just selfishly, I want the story to move faster, just because I want to know, where we're going, because I do enjoy the story. So, anyway, this didn't make your top 5 either, Rocky. But
Yeah.
anything to add?
Well, it came in at number 6 for me too. That was being generous. I actually want to rank it lower hearing you speak about it. I think you're being very diplomatic. You have been enjoying this maybe slightly more than I have. I just think this has dragged on way too long. This is the 3rd time it's even mentioned here. It's clear that his favorite character is this female Dr. Midnight, and I just don't find her particularly interesting. And unfortunately, 3 times now we've watched a fight between Scandal and Dr. Midnight. And why? And we've known 3 issues ago that Sorrow was the bad guy, and just now it's being revealed to the heroes. Just feels decompressed to me, and it doesn't. I'm not feeling the stakes, and I feel like I should be by now. That's just me. Again, the pacing isn't even that. In terms of structure and storytelling, and it's okay. But then I look and I think, oh my God, it's issue 9, and I'm thinking, I don't think I could recall 9 issues. It feels like we keep rehashing the same plot points, and I don't know. It's just not really hitting for me. But it is what it is. I hope you're right that it's picking up steam. I don't know if I really. We finally have the revelation that Sorrow's that revelation at issue 9. So I guess the next 3 issues to make it a 12-issue arc. Hopefully, the next 3 issues will be jam packed with action, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, up next we have Absolute Green Lantern number 4 from writer Al Ewing. Janoy Lindsay handles the art and the color. Lucas Catoni on letters. I ranked this in my top 3, but this is the one that possibly could fall out. And it's so interesting. I feel like somewhat of a hypocrite sometimes. Like I've complained a little bit about Absolute Batman, and it just seems like each issue is just focused on giving us the absolute version of this character, of that character, and whatever. And it hasn't really felt really that different or fresh. Um, and here we have a different version of Hector Hammond in this issue that gets revealed, and it's one of the things that I liked about it. So I don't know. I guess it's all in the delivery, so to speak. But I will say that I didn't mind the Janoi Lindsay art at first, but I don't know. There's something about it that's, and I can't put my finger on it. I looked through this book several times trying to see what it was about the art that wasn't really speaking to me. And I don't know if it's necessarily the line work, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's Genoi's color work. I mean, you think of Green Lantern, and you think back to like the Blackest Night and how colorful those books were. And yeah, the greens, they do tend to pop off the page a little bit, but they're not really bright. This is somewhat of a muted color palette, and I don't know if that's what it is that's not working for me. But I feel like the art in this book is the weakest part. We're only 4 issues in, and I've talked before about if too many of these questions drag on for too long, I'm going to it's going to bother me a little bit. When I talk about various other books where I mean JSA is a perfect example, right? Like Rocky's right. We're 9 issues in, and we feel like we haven't gotten anywhere yet. And so I talked a little bit about Absolute Martian Manhunter last week being kind of the same thing, where you get a certain number of issues in, but every time I read another issue, I close that issue, I'm done reading that issue, and I have more questions than I started with. That can't go on indefinitely. It at least not for me personally. It starts to bother me. But we haven't gotten to that point with Absolute Green Lantern yet. But I can sort of sense that danger. But overall, I'm still enjoying it. Partly because we get a lot of Hal Jordan. I mean, this particular issue, we get probably as much Joe Mullen as Hal, but Hal is definitely still a central figure. And we get some revelations here, like everybody that they thought was dead from the town is maybe not dead, so that's still to be revealed and what have you. But there's definitely some big events that happen in this particular issue, which is interesting. We see Joe get her powers. We see, at least the beginnings, perhaps, of how Hal Jordan got the black hand. So we'll see how that plays out as well. And then one thing I wanted to point out, the little Easter egg, the cafe that they've been hanging out in all this time is Alan Scott's Atom Bomb Cafe and Diner. So will we perhaps see an Alan Scott sighting in this series? It remains to be seen. So anyway, this was in your top 5 as well, Rocky. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was good. There's no question that Al Ewing. I have a feeling this is probably going to be as long as the as his Immortal Hulk run. This is definitely slow going, but I have to admit that I'm intrigued. It is in my top 5. I actually what's actually in my top 3 this week, and it really is intriguing. So we're starting to see events in terms of what happened in the first issue, when that with Abin Sur, how Jolene Sojourner, how she got her powers, and how she seemed to almost strip them from. She almost got them directly from Abin Sur, because she tried to hit him when she's interrogating him, asking him what happened to John Stewart and the rest of the gang. She thought they were dead, but maybe they're not. As Abin Sur's trying to explain it to her, she sort of reaches out, but she has a gold ring, and we learned last issue that gold, for whatever, anything even spray painted gold, that seems to be a weakness. You seem to be able to penetrate this green energy with it, and for whatever reason, it caused some sort of anomalous reaction that may have stripped Abin Sur of his powers, and that's where she gained her powers, and and the mystery still builds in terms of Hal Jordan's black hand, and then we get hints of the weaponers of Cord. Fear the weaponers of Cord. Now Cord, and it says it's Qard. Quard, but without the W. I thought it was Cord, but in any event, Cord is normally something in the mainstream universe we associate with Weaponeers, or even Sinestro. That's where Sinestro initially was, where he created a yellow ring. But is that going to be the case here in this Absolute universe? I don't know. Plus, it's the color red. It's the color red that appears when they reference the Weaponeers of Quard, which is not yellow. So that's interesting, because I'm sure that all the color work here, I believe Al Ewing and I believe the creative team, I'm sure every use of color here is very, very intentional, because we are dealing with the Green Lantern universe where there is an emotional spectrum. And even though this is just absolute Green Lantern, I suspect that there's going to be other, well, I don't know. It's Al Ewing. You never know. I suspect that there's other mysteries upon mysteries and little clues that are hidden in the background. We finally it's discovered, we get some more information as to how that giant Green Lantern symbol fell to Earth. And it seemed to fall to Earth just when Abin Sur was stripped of his powers, and when they went to Sojourner. So in any event, lots of revelations here. So we've got information, but it is slow going. But even though we got a lot more information, we're still, in terms of the timeline, we're not much farther ahead than we were time-wise in the first issue. So it is what it is. I am being entertained. I guess I'm just impatient, and that's a good thing, because it's going to pull me back for the subsequent issues.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. We've talked about it before. I'm trying to be patient as well, 4 issues. But yeah, I mean, I think about Immortal Hulk and how long that dragged as well. But I want to ask you about Sojourner, or Joe Mullen. Um, do you have any sense that she's a bit of a Mary Sue? Like, I feel like she's been foisted upon Green Lantern fans. She showed up in the Far Sector series by N.K. Jemisin, gorgeous art by Jamal Campbell, and she was a Green Lantern that was different than others. She didn't need to recharge her ring and the power battery and all that. And they kind of wanted to make her own unique thing. And I want to say, was that original Far Sector book Black Label? Because it definitely felt out of continuity.
I believe, was it Black Label, or was it called? I can't remember. It might have been.
It might not have been Black Label, but it definitely was under a different imprint.
It was. It was under
like Young Animal or whatever. But anyway, obviously they brought her into the mainstream DCU. But again,
yeah.
I feel there's a little bit of a sense that I feel that she's been kind of, I don't want to say shoved down our throats, but I mean, she comes back from the Far Sector when the Corps is in shambles, and she's just the de facto leader. Like, not John Stewart, not these other, like, I just, the sense that I have as a DC fan and as a fan of Green Lantern, particularly Hal Jordan, Green Lantern's probably my second or third, Vigilante, Adrian Chase is right there, second or third, after Superman. But this sense that I'm just supposed to accept her, and it doesn't feel like her spot doesn't feel earned. Like, there are so many other Lanterns I feel deserve a solo series.
Yeah,
she got one, I guess, on the strength of the pitch from N.K. Jemisin. Like, maybe, I mean, business reasons. She's a successful novelist. Maybe DC's like, okay, she wants to write a comic. It's a African American woman, so we're ticking all these diversity boxes. We can try to bring in new readers. I'm all for that, but I get the sense that her spot, her prestige within the Green Lantern Corps, and none of the other Lanterns question it, but it just doesn't seem earned. And I get that this is the Absolute universe and things are completely different here. But again, interesting choice. I don't know if it was Al Ewing. I don't know if it was editorial. Like, who decided that Sojourner was going to be the one that gets Abin Sur's power? Like, she's, at the end of this issue, she seems to be the most powerful character in the book. I mean, maybe it's Hal Jordan with his black hand or whatever, but I don't know. It's just, I have, and I don't dislike her as a character, but again, the problem is, to me, she doesn't feel like a character because she hasn't done anything to earn it, right? It's almost like what Jeffrey Thorne did with John Stewart. He made him almost into like this godlike character with all these powers. And John Stewart's been around a long time, and certainly more character development and more of a history of earning that power. Whereas I feel like Joe, she hasn't really done anything to earn the place that she has. We're just supposed to accept it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about her as a character. So
Yeah.
I was curious, if, am I alone in that, or do you know what I'm
Well,
saying? Are you,
yeah, I guess some sense of that. I feel that more in the main when in the mainstream
yeah,
when Jolene Sojourner joined the mainstream universe, she I won't say she fell short of a Mary Sue. I won't say because I actually liked her character. I thought because she reminds me a little bit of a female Jon Stewart. Actually, she seems she seems aggressive. She seems like a military inclined. She seems to be a good leader. So it didn't for some reason it didn't bother me all that much, and I felt that Far Sector was a very different kind of a Green Lantern story, and I kind of enjoyed it for that reason. But I will say that in the absolute title here, I mean, she's in the absolute universe. She's actually used to be married to Jon Stewart. She's separated, and she's now got a new love interest who just cheated on her with the same. So she's bisexual. That was established. That's established in the absolute universe here in this particular issue. She's got a girlfriend, or at least some an ex that she must have gone with after she left Jon Stewart. But in any event, it is an interesting choice. But I will say that I'm curious. Do you? I don't feel she's a Mary Sue in the absolute universe so far, or do you feel that way?
no, because not enough has happened to say
Yeah,
that. But my
yeah,
but my point being, like, what we know 4 issues in, she seems like she's going to be the main heroic character. She's the one that has,
yeah,
Green Lantern like abilities right now, and
yeah.
Hal
She's
Jordan
the
is
one that
apparently
gets
going
the
to.
powers from Ab and Sur, and it's not Hal
Right,
Jordan. So that's
exactly.
interesting. Yeah,
And Hal Jordan
yeah,
apparently is going to be the bad guy that can't control the whatever malevolent force that the Black Hand is that's out there, like, literally killing people.
yeah.
And it's going to be up to Joe to, not Guy, who's already showed up, not John Stewart, who's already showed up,
Mm,
uh, not Alan Scott, whose name we've seen. Like, we haven't seen Simon Boz or, anyone else at this point. Hector Hammond,
mm,
obviously, he's traditionally a bad guy. Um,
yeah,
but of all the lanterns to choose, when you have Guy Gardner been around for decades, John Stewart been around for decades, Abin Sur, Jessica Cruz been around for, I think, a decade now. I think it's been 10 years since they've showed up. But
yeah,
it's the newest lantern, newest one on the block, Joe Mullen, that gets the kind of, at least so far, seems to be cast in the role of number one protagonist.
yeah.
I find that to be interesting. I wonder if that was a Al Ewing thing or if that was a DC thing. Hey, why don't you pitch us this absolute Green Lantern book? Here's kind of the premise. Well, by the
Mm,
way, we want Joe to be the main
yeah.
lantern.
Well,
Um,
they probably want to add a little bit more, maybe a little bit more females to the Absolute Justice League. Ultimately, maybe put a little different spin on
yeah, I
it.
mean,
I suppose.
who
Right?
like I said, she checks a lot of the diversity boxes, right? Like you mentioned,
Yeah.
her sexuality. She's a person of color. She's a female, and I don't mind it necessarily. Like, I'd rather have DC, if you want a character that people can identify with and can relate to, female readers or African American readers or LGBTQ readers. I vastly prefer they create a new character as opposed to changing, somebody else. Although, like, the Alan Scott thing doesn't bother me that much because honestly, didn't have that much characterization being a Golden Age hero. It bothers me a little more with Tim Drake just because, kind of was established. He'd had romantic heterosexual relationships before. But again, I'm not bent out of shape about it. But I do prefer, if you're going to do that, to create a new character, and they have. And again, I don't mind her being, having her own series or whatever, if it feels earned. But again, it's like you want to elevate Joe, but it's kind of at the expense of these other lanterns in a way. So I don't know, but like I said at the beginning of this, I don't want to call it a rant, but of this discussion, I mentioned feeling a little bit hypocritical, about it. Because certainly, as I mentioned, John Stewart had decades and decades of characterization, but when Jeffrey Thorne elevated him, that didn't feel earned either. But that was because it was so fanboyish. I mean, yeah, if anybody's read that Jeffrey Thorne stuff, it's so fanboyish. But anyway, that's more than enough about Absolute Green Lantern number 3. Let's move on. Is it? Was it number 3 or is it number 4? Sorry, number 4. Absolute Green Lantern number 4. All right. Up next, this is a weekly series. It's coming out. I want to say it's 4 issues, or maybe it's only no 5, at least 5, because 5 have been solicited so far. But it's Gotham City Sirens, Unfit for Orbit, issue number 1. It's from the same writer where we got the last weekly Gotham City Sirens series, which was, I think, in December. So it's written by Leah Williams. Hanning is the artist. Just goes by the one name. Last time we saw their work was in the in the series about the spirit. Was it called Spirit World? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Spirit World, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was called
Spirit World. Yeah.
Yeah. Spirit World. That was the I can find it right here. Spirit World. Yeah. And that was the book that kind of introduced us to Xanthi Zhao, Chinese character. So anyway, Hanning here returns. Fantastic art, great color work as well from Yvonne Placencia, Tom Napolitano on letters. So this book, I don't have a lot to say about it other than I just thought it was a lot of fun. It comes in at number 5 for me in my ranking, partially because I think the art was fantastic. That previous Gotham City Sirens series, it wasn't great for me because they were in Gotham City, and the characterization, while the interactions between the Sirens felt okay, the story itself was a little wonky. But the biggest criticism I had of it was the art. I just didn't think the art was particularly good. I think we both commented on it. You hear Gotham City Sirens, you expect them to be, feminine and sexy with strong art. And we had great covers, but the interior art, I can't remember who did it, but the interior artwork it felt lacking. That's not a problem here with Hanning on the art. And again, those great colors from Yvonne Placencia. It's just really fantastic. And we have Leah Williams returning to the Gotham City Sirens. And I feel like she's got a fantastic grasp on the dynamics between these characters. I mean, specifically here, it's the Sirens of Harley and Poison Ivy and Catwoman, and there's sexual tension between all three. Great colors with the art popping off the page, as I said, and we hit the ground running with some action and intrigue right away. Catwoman shows up, she recruits Harley, and in turn recruits Poison Ivy, and they're going to go to this club, and they want to steal something of value, some technology or what have you that supposedly is there. And when we get to the nightclub or what have you, it's not too long before we discover that there's a very big bad behind all of this who has mental powers. It's Despero, one of the very first villains that the Justice League of America ever fought. This is his newer look. I think it got redone in the 90s. Like his fin used to go the other way, which I always thought looked so weird. It looked like he was wearing a fan on his head. So they changed his look around. At least the fin goes down the center for it now. But he's a big threat. Like when you think of like a villain to take on, who, let's face it, they're street level characters. When you want to talk about, Poison Ivy being obviously the most powerful, but Catwoman doesn't have any superpowers. Harley supposedly doesn't have any superpowers, but it certainly they make her seem like she does at times. But I mean, they are outclassed. They are outclassed. So the fact that Leah Williams is about to tell a story where they're taking on somebody who's way above their power level, I'm actually excited to see where this goes. And again, a lot of it on the strength of the art from Hanning. This was kind of a no brainer in my top 5. Which when I saw it get announced, just based on the quality of that previous Gotham City Sirens weekly series, I was not excited for this. I was like, oh man, that's going to be a chore to read. But I really enjoyed it, like from page 1. And I again, because we have the same writer, and so what's different, right? I mean,
yeah,
I didn't care.
It's a better story. It's a better plot right off the top.
Well, it's a better story. It's a better story. But I think for me personally, more than anything, it's the strength of the art that is elevating the story. I did mention the last story was a little bit wonky. So you're right. This is a better story. but the art is elevating the story as opposed to the last one. Maybe the story was a little weaker and the plot was a little weaker, and it needed help from the visuals, and it didn't get it. This one, I think it's a better story, better plot. The characterization is just as good because the characterization was good in the last one too. Because the last one, that was the other thing that was really disappointing. If you remember, Rocky, the fact that the art wasn't that great was White Rabbit was in it. White Rabbit was in it.
Yeah, I know.
And like, you want to talk about, looking good and hot body and whatever, like White Rabbit. And the art just was not good.
Was not good.
So anyway, I really enjoyed this. I put it at number 5 in my ranking. So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I rank it higher than number 5 for me. I'll reveal that later, what number I put it at. I'm going to be a little bit more critical of the art. The art is much better. I think it still should be sexier. But I'm a Pyrian fanboy, but I like the art substantially better. And it's sexy enough and I laughed out loud, and I got to give a shout out to this. Janet from HR shows up in the best scene of the comic. Harley Quinn calls Poison Ivy and says, "Hiya, babe, what you doing?" And she says, "Janet." and anybody who's been, for those who are reading Gotham City Sirens and you're not reading the Poison Ivy comic book, Janet from HR is a character in that comic, and she has the distinction that it was strongly suggested in that comic that Janet from HR has slept with both Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy separately, and I don't the fact that Leigh Williams is taking that and going with that. And there was always sort of a question of whether or not, does Harley know that Janet and Poison Ivy sort of slept together, or does she think they just kissed? Is it a triangle, or what's going on here? Now it seems fairly obvious Harley's in on it, and Harley even jokes about wanting Poison Ivy to film them together so she can watch them get it on through her iPhone. That's in this comic. That's what I like. That's the type of sexual innuendo, playfulness, sexiness that I like to see in this type of comics. That's Leigh Williams understanding the assignment. And in fairness, Leigh Williams did understand the assignment in the first series that she did. It's just that the art never wasn't adequate to back up her story there. But this story is really good. Great seeing Despero. I like the fact that it's a strong male villain who's and Despero is a piece of he's a piece of human. Well, I mean, he's a piece of alien garbage. But he's an alien misogynist that is perfect. That they're gonna have a field day with him in terms of humor. There's so much potential there for storytelling. Leigh Williams made a good choice here, and a very basic setup. Catwoman is hired to she takes it upon herself to steal this conduit for money, and this conduit ends up being a kid, and who ends up being an innocent kid who has some sort of markings on his body. He's balding, and he's appears to be almost homeless, and with red eyes and red tattoos. And so, so this really tugs at the heartstrings. You got a cute kid, you got sexy girls, you got a horrific alien villain. This is like Leigh Williams is just this is the way you do an opening comic. And so yeah, kudos to her. Did a really good job and well deserved to be in the top 5 this week.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, up next we have Birds of Prey number 23, written by Kelly Thompson, Sami Basri on pencils, Vicente Fuentes on inks, Hi-Fi does the colors, and Clayton Cowell on letters. This comes in both of our top 5s. I'll let you go first, Rocky. What'd you think?
Okay, I'm just this in the previous few issues of Birds of Prey, the Birds of Prey have been sort of like they've been taken out sort of one by one, and in particular, Big Barda has been sort of taken off the playing field, and she's been sort of controlled, and so and last issue ended with the Birds of Prey headquarters seemingly having been completely destroyed, and this issue opens up with really Black Canary and Cassandra Cain basically figuring out, oh my God, what are we going to do? But then their training kicks in. They've got their protocols, and they remember all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that were not shown. Sort of comes into play. So while they witness the destruction of their beloved headquarters, they right away they realize, okay, well, let's go meet up at the place at the rendezvous point where we're supposed to meet. Oracle told us if our headquarters were ever destroyed, we know what location we're supposed to go to, and so that's exactly what they do. And now a lot of this issue it focuses a lot on. There's a lot of talking heads. There's a lot of conversations here. This almost didn't make my top, in another week, this wouldn't have made my top 5, but there's enough here that, Kelly Thompson it's slow character work, but it is character work nonetheless. And this team is really starting to grow on me. And, I guess it just goes to show you that I can learn patience when I get used to a certain style of writing, and that's what's happening here. Last issue, Black Canary and Oracle had a fight, and they had an argument, and here, all of a sudden, Oracle could be dead, and so it's sort of, Dinah has some concerns, and of course she regrets their last conversation, and they and so that actually, for me anyway, it heightened the moment where they confirm, they discovered that everyone's okay, and it allows them to basically regroup and get their bearings and sort of plan their counterattack, because the group that wants to take them out and that has control of Big Barda, they are unaware that the birds of prey are actually not only alive, but they've expanded their ranks. And so it's a really nice setup, this issue, and it's sort of like in every movie, and it's a trope in comics, but it's a trope we love, where the good guys get absolutely battered, and then it's right before the third act of the story or the movie where the heroes sort of regroup, and then boom, you got your end game. And that's what's happened here. It's sort of a setup issue, and I'm looking forward to the next issue because of it. And a good job by Kelly Thompson here, sort of like getting all the characters together, and at the end, as they slowly reintroduce themselves to the bad guys here, they end up, that's where suddenly they all show up, and they're clearly showing that the birds of prey have once again been underestimated, even by this new group that was hoping to get one on top of them. So I thought it's entertaining, and Sam Basri's art, I think, it's kind of grown on me. I enjoyed it this issue, and this issue, not only it did end with a lot of action, which I enjoyed, and yeah, this is Kelly Thompson is sort of finding her role. I'm enjoying these last 5 or 6 issues of Kelly Thompson's run, more so than I enjoyed the first half of her run. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, she had the interactions between the characters down pretty well, and now she's playing with that a little bit, friction within the group and what have you, and you can kind of understand that. So it's definitely plot development, and it works really well. And yeah, I'm enjoying the Sammy Basri art as well, and I love what she's doing with Barda in the story, because that was one of the questions that I had. Barda is not somebody who is a natural inclusion into this group. I talked before about Birds of Prey and thinking of them as more of almost a spy organization, espionage group. They're street level characters, and then you bring in Big Barda, and it's sort of like, Barda's not inconspicuous. If you need to be going undercover, if you need to be sneaking into places, under the cover of night or what have you. I mean, Barda sticks out like a sore thumb. She's not subtle in any way, shape, or form. So, I wondered, why Barda would. And don't get me wrong, I love Big Barda, and I love the voice that Kelly Thompson gives her. So interesting here that Barda's actually an antagonist, having her be controlled by this, shadowy entity or whatever it is a really interesting way to kind of flip it around and have Barda as an enemy rather than an ally, which is really, really fun. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And both the variant covers are fantastic. I think that I'm probably going to have to pick up the Serge Acuna cover, because it's just so good, with Cassandra Cain standing there holding like a missing persons poster, I guess we'll call it, of Barda. So yeah, and that one's by Serge Acuna, and then the other one is by Nimit Malavia with Barda in the background and a bunch of birds of prey in the foreground and various action poses. So yeah, both no matter what cover you go with this week, you're gonna get a good one. But yeah, I gotta go with that Serge Acuna cover.
Yeah.
Birds of Prey is not a series that I buy like every single issue.
Yeah.
But if it has a good cover, I'll dip in and pick it up. So,
Yeah.
all right. Up next, we have Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2, issue number 2 from writer Brian Buccelelo, Christian Duce on art, Luis Guerrero on colors, Tyler Smith on letters. Um, this comes in for me in my top 3. I've really been enjoying it, especially the art. Christian Duce's art is just so fantastic. He does such a great job, and we praised him for his art in the first go round, the first volume of Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. But I think maybe even we didn't give him enough credit, because one of the things that I was struck with in this issue, how much action there is, first of all, and he does a fantastic job of making it clear what's happening. I never once in one of these books with Christian Duce art have I ever had to go back to a previous panel to try to figure out the transition from one panel to the next. And he's drawn a ton of characters. I mean, this is the entire kind of classic Justice League lineup here, along with Supergirl. And you have, the villain group with this version of the Suicide Squad with Lex Luthor and Killer Croc and all those other guys. Plus, he's drawing monsters, Godzilla, Kong, various other monsters as well. But the other part about it is they're not just monsters; they're giant monsters, right? Or even when Task Force X or Suicide Squad shows up here, um, Enchantress is flying, Giganta's at a larger size. So even when it's not the monsters, even when it's the classic villains, it's a matter of perspective, right? And then we have Batman in the robot mech, we have Godzilla, we have Kong. So everything has to be drawn in the correct sizes as well, the correct proportions as well. And he just does a fantastic job. So the word that we used time again to describe the first series was fun, and Brian Buccello, the writer, is bringing that same level of fun, that same level of over the top, with, if possible, even higher stakes. It feels like the heroes are in even more danger than they were last time. And so, I'm just enjoying this to an immense degree. We haven't seen Godzilla show up yet, but Kong shows up here. He's a problem for the heroes. We know that he sort of had a connection with Supergirl in the last story, and she was able to kind of get Kong to fight on their side. Here, apparently, Kong doesn't even remember her. He's just as much of a threat as the other monsters are. So yeah, I mean, if you just love comics, you love fantastic art, over the top action, getting to see your favorite heroes and villains go toe to toe. This is exactly the kind of comic that you're going to want to read. You don't need to have read the first Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. You get everything you need in these first 2 issues. The Bat Mech looks awesome. The colors are gorgeous. I mean, there's nothing not to like. This is technically a very well done comic, and in terms of the story and the action, it's just a heck of a lot of fun. So this was an easy no brainer for me to be in my top 3. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on it, Rocky?
Well, I'm sure one of the other reasons you liked it is that it starts off confirming, of course, that Amanda Waller is in fact
Yeah.
killed by
Yeah, that doesn't
Godzilla.
hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't
doesn't
hurt.
hurt. Yeah, no Amanda Waller, at least not yet. She'll probably come back. I mean, if anyone's destined to come back as a giant, big, fat monster that can even kill Godzilla, it's probably going to be an Amanda. And I don't know, Amanda Walker, Amanda Waller monster. There's got to be some sort of. We got to come up with a name for a monster named Amanda the Wall or something, or the monster wall. Anyways, yeah, like I said, it's just fun. And this is Buccello. I mean, he proved his worth on the first series. This guy has a well-deserved sequel, and right away, you mentioned, you nailed it. It does seem to, right away. It seems like the stakes are even higher than last time, which is incredible. I like the fact, Lex Luthor seems to be elevated in this series as well, even more so than he was the first time around. And this issue ends with them sort of they're in the middle of the Earth where Superman's cut off from the sun, he's losing his powers, so naturally Luthor wants to take him out. Unfortunately, it ends fantastic classic cliffhanger for a comic. You and this is reminiscent of the last Godzilla Kong movie where there seems to be other sort of giant, I don't know, like giant gorillas that seem to have it in for both Luthor and Superman. And so even though everyone has their own agenda, and Buccelelo manages to balance all the various agendas of the characters at play here. The agendas not only of the monsters but of the supervillains and the superheroes that have to make sense of it. But there's also tragedy and there's loss of life. We got Flash here, who's very badly wounded by Peacemaker, and we got Amanda Waller that was taken out last issue. And there's again, it feels like there's actually stakes in this series like there was in the first one. And that's one of the things that really adds to it. And it sort of reminds me about something James Gunn said for the Superman, for the DC movies in general. He says that death, when you die, you die. That's going to have meaning there. So I just thought I'd throw that in because I'm very hopeful of the Superman movie this month. So not only am I excited about Superman movie this month, but I'm excited about San Diego, which I'll be joining you in San Diego along with a bunch of other of our fellow friends and what have you. But yeah, great time to be a Superman fan and DC fan.
Yeah, 100%. All right, up next we have Secret 6 number 5. This is from writer Nicole Maines. Art is by Roger Cruz. Colors by Rain Moretto. Letters by Steve Wands. This comes in my top 3 as well. Really enjoyed this particular issue. It didn't make your top 5, so give us your thoughts on it first.
Well, it wasn't bad. First of all, I really like the Deadshot cover. It shows Deadshot coming out of the grave. It says, "Here lies Deadshot, father, killer, egomaniac." So I really like that variant cover. I'd definitely be picking that up. I actually one of the things that sort of stands out for me is I like. Dreamer is a character that continues to impress me and grow on me here. I actually feel that I'm going to admit that something I never said as bluntly as I could when the series began. I have a strong bias in favor of the original Secret Six series, and so I sort of had a bias against wanting this series to be good. But this series has gotten better, and I'm enjoying it. And Dreamer is a character that really is growing on me more, and I really like her rapport with Black Alice, and with Deadshot. And I like sort of like the festering resentments of the team, but hidden under their resentments of each other, you can see a building respect. And that is a very tough thing to pull off as a writer. Not all writers can pull that off. Nicole Maines is pulling that off. Somehow Dreamer, these characters aren't necessarily inclined to like each other. They've got all reasons not to trust each other and like each other. Yet that trust is building. It's because and that's built on the character work that's been done and what we know of these characters, and also of Dreamer herself. She has dreamed about what might happen, what Jay Nakamura might do. She has a dream where Jay Nakamura might become very violent and kill a bunch of guards, and with Dreamer you never know, is it going to happen or isn't it? And meanwhile, Jay Nakamura has discovered more things about Gamora, and there's a lot of this is what I read into it, and I like this. I feel that there's a lot of real world allusions here, and it might be by accident, it might be by design. I feel that Gamora could almost be like a modern day Iran, where it's a country that everybody has an agenda in regard to. Everybody wants to control it. Everybody wants to have a piece of it. I think there's a lot of real world analogies here, whether it's Iran, Iraq, or pick your country in the Middle East. And that Jay is sort of like, you can see Jay Nakamura's frustrations with that. And I really, this is surprisingly well done. For the most part, maybe some of your Amanda Waller resentment's gotten to me a little bit, but even Amanda Waller here, in terms of her fate and what awaits her, it's just something where as much as I'm kind of intrigued to see where this is going, I'm actually more interested now, particularly with Jeanette showing up and the resentment and the tensions of the former teammates that they attack each other. I long for a Secret Six series, and if we get it, I actually want all the original Secret Six members. And heck, even if you have to, I don't want Jay Nakamura to be there, but I'd like to have Dreamer part of a Secret Six and have John Kent and Jay Nakamura leave the series. That's where I'm going with this. And that's a compliment to Nicole Maines, because and that way Dreamer can just be doing John Kent on the side once he breaks up with Jay Nakamura, and Jay Nakamura goes and unalives himself somewhere in the recesses of the DC universe. But that's just me dreaming.
Remind me again what it is you don't like about Jay.
What's his pink hair?
Pink hair, of course, pink hair.
I told you that. I don't like pink hair.
I mean, I get it. Like he feels like a bit of a plot device. Well, I should say he felt like a bit of a plot device, but that's to the credit of Nicole Maines with what she's doing in the series, because you hit the nail on the head when you talk about these are characters that don't like each other, and the reason I rank this so highly is specifically because of the character work. Like, yes, there's an underlying story with Amanda Waller, and maybe she's finally going to get her comeuppance. And, is it better for her to have justice served, or just to be locked away and have, her just be forgotten about? She's craved power all along, and she's given lip service many times to, oh, I want to make the world a safer place. And I call BS on that many, many times, and say, no, she wants power for power's sake, as many people that crave power do. Because she always wants to be the one in control, calling the shots. And so to lock her away and just forget about her and have her be forgotten might be the most poetic justice that can happen to her. But she has, a lot of knowledge in her brain. It's been locked away by Dreamer. And the whole idea of the series of why Checkmate has broken her out of prison, what have you, is that they want those secrets for themselves. Because again, knowledge is power, and Dreamer calls her on, calls Checkmate on that, calls Banshee on that, and says, "No, you talk about extracting it as a punishment. Hey, what's worse than having the memories locked away, the information locked away, so Waller can't get to it? What's worse than that? Actually taking it from her and then locking her in a cell where she doesn't even know why she's in the cell, doesn't even have any of her memories, who she is, what she did to deserve that, or whatever." And Dreamer's like, nah, hold on a second. What's in it for you? Deadshot, the same thing. Like, Checkmate doesn't just do this out of the goodness of their hearts. So, that's the underlying story. But it wouldn't be as interesting if it wasn't for the characterization complexity, the layering of these characters that we get from Nicole Maines, that is extremely impressive for a writer that's really at the beginning of their career as a writer. The interactions, the shifting loyalties. I mean, you want to talk about the old Secret Six, Black Alice and Deadshot, they were on the team with Banshee, so maybe there's some loyalty there, but not really. Then you have Jay, who's off on his own, trying to get answers for why Gamora and eventually that Amanda Waller doing what she did in Absolute Power, and it leading to strife in Gamora and eventually the death of his mother and what have you. And he seems to have his own agenda, and foreshadowed by Dreamer's powers of could he possibly, and I've said this from the beginning, I fully expect by the end of this series for Gossamer, for Jay Nakamura to completely be a villain, and for John Kent to probably mourn the relationship in some way, but to see that Jay has turned, and he's no longer a good guy. He's if I want to give him the benefit, I've never cared for him as a character because he's always felt like a plot device to me more than anything, rather than fully realized character. And even if I am generous in that and saying, well, he's got a little bit of characterization, his characterization is that of a limp noodle. It's not particularly interesting what characterization we have gotten. So I don't care for him as a character, whatever. Pink hair notwithstanding, I couldn't care less about the color of his hair. I just don't think he's a very interesting or well fleshed out character. Maybe he will be more interesting as a villain. And again, you try to have a little bit of empathy. The guy lost his mother or whatever, but why should I have empathy for Jade Nakamura? He doesn't have empathy for anyone else. Like he blames Dreamer for the death of his mother, but never once does he put himself in Dreamer's shoes to say, hey, what if the shoe was on the other foot and it was me? It was Dreamer's, parents whose life was on the line, or Dreamer's mother whose life was on the line, and they were going to, and Amanda Waller was going to kill my mother. Like, put the blame where it belongs on Amanda Waller here. And so at the end, again, playing on that characterization and pulling from things that have come before, even though they're not going to give the information over to Checkmate, Jay Nakamura does put the helmet that's supposedly going to erase the memories of Amanda Waller on her head. So I'm all for, seeing Amanda Waller get tortured. She deserves it, or what have you. But the reason this ranks so highly for me doesn't really have that much to do with the actual plot of the story, or tying up loose ends from Absolute Power, or getting Amanda Waller the comeuppance that she deserves. It has to do with, first of all, great art, the best art that we've had in the series so far. Because that's been one thing. Like this, the Steven Segovia art for me has been a little bit up and down, a little bit too anime influenced for my taste. But this Roger Cruz art in this issue just is exactly the tone and the style I think this series needs. Like the characters look fantastic, but even beyond that, it's the complexity of the character that we get with each of the characters, and the dynamics, just the way they talk to each other and play off of each other. It's brilliantly done. And I don't know if it's Nicole's background in acting that helps her so much with that, getting that down in such a fantastic fashion. But this is expertly done. And again, I continue to be really impressed because, she is just at the beginning of her writing career. And she's just doing a fantastic job. And I echo what you said about that Deadshot cover. That's fantastic. This is another series that I haven't been buying the physical copies, but I'll be picking up that Deadshot cover because it's fantastic. And that's with me trying to buy less and less. But like I mentioned it last episode, and I had somebody reach out to me, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going with the reorganization of your book?" Like, they reached out today, and I was like, "Oh man, I did a little bit on Saturday, and that's all I did on Sunday, and I put a big dent in it. I think I have 78 or 79 long boxes, and I'm down to 20. I have 20 left that I need to sort by year, and then once everything's sorted by year, then I'll be able to go in and sort it by month. But I'm almost to the point of having everything sorted by year. I'm over 2/3 of the way there. And I worked on it a lot. And what I realized, because I was trying to remember the other day, like, when did I start doing this? Because obviously I've taken forever to do this. I started in 2021 because I have 2021, the second half of 2021, I already have sorted by month and year. So I don't think I barely touched it in 2022. I don't think I touched it at all in 2023 and 2024. I just been, and the other part of this was like, so before, when I did everything alphabetically, I would go several months at a time and until I had a big stack built up, and I'd put everything away. Well, because I've been doing it this way, everything that I've bought since 2021, it's neither sorted alphabetically nor chronologically. It's just a mess. And what I realized as I was going through it yesterday, I was like, I bought way too many comics in 2021 and 2022, especially 2022. Like, it's so much. And if you recall, Rocky, 2021, that Future State, how I bought every single issue of Future State, multiple covers of a lot of them. It was like a 4-foot tall stack of Future State that I spent so much money on. That's, as we know, just not very good. And I was like, man, so I've really been trying to cut back because I don't have the space. But going back and looking at how many of those long boxes are 2022, 2023, like ideally I would like to have about a year, a long box per year, right? I'm going to have more than that, obviously, because obviously, like, 1994 was the year I had my comic shop. I have like 5 long boxes of 1994 books, which, it's not good stuff. It's not good. It's 90s, not good stuff. But anyway, I say that to say, even though I'm supposed to be cutting back on my physical books, here I am like, I'm going to have to pick up that Deadshot cover. Going to have to pick up that Birds of Prey cover by Sergio Kuna. So anyway, let's move on. I think the next book may be kind of quick when we cover it here. It's finally the end of Batman 89 Echoes with issue number 6 from writer Sam Hamm. Gorgeous art from Joe Quinones with art assist to Stacey Lee. Leonardo Ito is the colorist. Carlos M. Mangual handles the letters. And if you forgot that this series was coming out,
Yeah,
uh,
I did.
I, I,
I forgot.
I,
I totally
yeah,
forgot.
yeah, I don't blame you because the first issue came out in November of 2023,
Wow.
and then nothing in December, January, and then the second one in March. Nothing in April, May, or June of 2024. July, we got another issue. Then nothing in August, but then September, we got an issue of 2024. And then nothing in October or November. The last issue of this, issue 5, came out December of 2024. Now, here we are 7 months later. 7 months later, we
Wow.
finally get the last issue of this. Guess what? I don't care. I don't care about
Yeah.
the series. Why should I? DC certainly didn't care. I don't know what creator was at fault or whatever, if any. But I mean, if I'm a creator, I mean, I don't put my name on this like that. That's just an embarrassment. So if you can't put out a 6 issue series, like nearly 2 years to put out a 6 issue series, absolutely inexcusable. And again, I don't know. It'd purely be speculation, but I've never seen anything with Joe Quinones's name on it that's been late. Sam Hamm is not a comic book writer. He works in film and TV, where delays are sort of par for the course. Again, I don't know if it's on him or not, but it's like if you want to be a comic writer, if you're not on time, you won't get work. But if Sam Hamm doesn't make his living writing comics, does he care? So again,
Yeah.
I'm just speculating, but um, it's a little sad because in this 6 issues, there's a ton of story packed into these 6 issues, and I think it could have been a good story, especially for fans of Michael Keaton Batman. Um, but you ruined it by taking 7 months to I mean, for the delays for the previous delays were bad enough, having to wait 3 months for an issue or whatever. But 7 months is just inexcusable in my mind. So yeah, this comes in dead last for me. Couldn't care less. Uh, won't spend a dime on it. Typically I'm not one to tell people not to buy anything, but and I love DC, but DC has plenty of books that come out on time. You can spend your money. So I, I I would not encourage anybody to buy this because if you go and you buy it,
Well, you can buy it
like
as a
you buy it,
trade. You can buy it as a
yeah,
trade.
you buy it as a trade. It
Yeah.
still helps their bottom line or what have you. So even that. But again, don't don't lessen your enjoyment because of the mistakes of DC and whoever is at fault for this being late. Like if you want
Yeah.
to buy it, you want to read it, and you want to enjoy it, life's too short. You do that. But there's a part of me that like wants to tell everybody boycott this because if you go and buy this, you're encouraging this behavior. You're saying, oh, I don't care that it was 7 months late, and I think that's wrong. I just think it's so. I think it's so wrong for a book to come out this late. It just it's inexcusable. Like I said, it's inexcusable. There's no excuse for it. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
Well,
I
I
won't
would just
stay any.
add. I would just add that if you want to see Madonna as Harley Quinn, be reminded of Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, Michael Keaton as Batman. This is definitely the series for you. I remember vaguely the plot points, but not enough to give any adequate explanation as to how this wraps up. So I felt that it was a little bit confusing, but it wouldn't have been had it not been for the delay. The art, Joe Quinones' art, along with Stacey Lee as the artist, really is the art is really good. Leonardo Ito, colorist. There are some pages that are just absolutely gorgeous. This very much looks like Michael Keaton. It looks like Madonna's playing Harley Quinn. It looks like Michelle Pfeiffer. It's the classic Alpha for them. I mean, it is a very beautifully illustrated comic book. And I don't know what the reason for the delay is, but it's sad. But I will say though that uh, as with all these delays, it's the same thing with Doomsday Clock. I remember that took a long time to come out. I love Doomsday Clock, and I got the Absolute Edition. This is something where I think people, if you're a Michael Keaton fan and maybe didn't enjoy that Flash movie, although I actually kind of liked that Flash movie. It was a guilty pleasure. uh, Pick this up. I mean, if you pick it up as a trade now, probably but before the end of the year, it'll come out as a trade, and it'll probably it will read a hell of a lot better because it'll all be in one book.
Yeah, if you recall, right? I mean, again, it's been so long.
Yeah,
This series started off with Batman letting himself be captured when he was posing as Firefly. That was this
yeah,
book.
I know.
That's how long ago. That feels like a million years ago. That
Yeah,
was this story. Like a lot has happened. A lot has happened in this series. But again, it's so hard to keep track and remember because it took 7 months between the last issue, almost 2 years for a 6-issue series. Just again, inexcusable.
yeah.
Anyway, up next we have Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma, issue number 4. We just talked about the last issue last week because there's some confusion on when it came out. But anyway, it's written by Ram V. Anand RK handles the majority of the art, although we do have the first page by the late, great Jackson Butch Geis. Mike Spicer on colors, Aditya Bidikar on letters. This comes in at number 7 for me. Up until this issue, I have enjoyed the Anand RK art, but there's not enough forward momentum in the story for me personally in this particular issue for the art to shine. It's a bit of a talking head issue, and I don't think that's the strength of Anand's art. But I am still enjoying this series. But I did think this was the weakest of the issues so far. But partially because again, it's a bit of a talking ahead issue, and the art isn't as well suited for that. And also, it's a bit of a setup issue for what comes next. So anyway, that's all I have to say about it. Anything to add, Rocky?
Well, I thought it was intriguing that, if I understood it correctly, Resurrection Man decides to rebel against essentially a version of his future self because he doesn't want his future self to utilize the fractal microverse for
Yep.
ill-gotten means. Or even though it's interesting, his future self seems to be, I thought, benevolent, but there seems to be they have a difference of opinion as to what constitutes utilizing the fractal microverse for good versus ill. And it's like good intentions might lead to bad results. And so I like the tension that Ramvi sets up, because it's not clear to me that I necessarily agree with Resurrection Man here, the one that we're supposed to be cheering for. I part of me is like, it's an interesting debate. So I sort of like the themes that are at play here and how it's making me think and question myself and question as to who might be more right than the other. And then last issue with, of course, Vandal Savage being thrown in the mix there as the sort of like the quasi brother of Resurrection Man. That was a nice little addition as well, and how it's all tied into this new villain who basically ate a limb of Vandal Savage and has now arguably become sort of like the counterpoint to Resurrection Man. And so it's typical Ram V, a lot of esoteric, talking head stuff in here, but it's rich in substance if you take the time to sort of dive in. And especially in the summer, preferably do it. I'm drinking non-alcoholic Corona now. What do they call it? Sunspot beer or something. Anyways, it's good to sit back in the summer and sip it and give it a read on an iPad. At least that's what I did. So good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. This is 100% a Ram V type story, and now I was reading it and I was thinking about the philosophical consequences and what have you, and why these it's supposedly the same being coming at it from a different perspective, and they're having this disagreement. And it reminded me of my philosophy class, one of the classes in college I enjoyed the most. I almost changed my major to philosophy.
Oh,
I was
really?
really going to pursue it. But then, I realized the career prospects if you get a degree in philosophy are pretty much teaching philosophy. But I'm fascinated by philosophy and different perspectives, what have you. And it would have been fantastic to have had Ram V in my philosophy class, because I imagine we would have had some great conversations. Not that I can't have great conversations with him now, but yeah, the whole idea here of utilitarianism, which if you're not familiar with that, what was those guys named Jeremy Benham, I think was his name, kind of the
Yeah.
founder, Jeremy Bentham. And that's the idea that whatever does the greatest good for the greatest number of people is what's right. And that's sort of the debate that these two different versions of the Resurrection Man are having, right? Like the one wants to use the fractal universe to play out like 100 different timelines, if you will, to figure out the way that he can defeat this villain. Because in so many timelines that he's looked at, the villain wins, and basically the universe comes to an end. He eats everything. Like he's avarice unbound. And the Resurrection Man that we know, the one that's hiding the fractal universe, is like, no, that's too much suffering, is what he's saying, right? He's like, it's because you're going to create this infinite number of universes, and all but one of those universes are going to die. So you're actually doing more harm than good, and that's the sort of the argument that they're having, because it's sort of like you're experimenting, but those are, the Resurrection Man that we know is saying, yeah, but it's still lives that are coming to an end. Yeah, you're creating the universes with the power of the fractal microverse, but they're still living people with souls and what have you. That's just fascinating. Like, there's no right or wrong answer here, right? Like, okay, so should you allow all of existence to end? Or should you have, some people suffer so that existence can continue? Again, it's fascinating. So,
and I also love, I just want to add, I love how his future self is saying, look, just do it my way. You can't escape me anyway. I'm from the future. I know exactly what you're going to do. But then his present self says, oh, really? Because then he turns one up on his future self saying, well, not if I change my mind. And then you get into that time paradox. Well, wait a minute. If you change your mind in the past, doesn't your future self know you're going to change your mind? I mean, how do you escape? I mean, it just seemed to me. So it was a little bit of there was a lot of that back and forth. That it was, in addition to the philosophy, there was also a little bit of a paradoxical scenario where how do you escape your future self by changing the way you think and all this other stuff. And it got kind of deep there.
It gets into really fantastical things that we can't even really think about, right? Because that Resurrection Man that died of old age is in some is sort of like a singularity, right? Because he can see his entire life, from the time he was affected by the meteor till existence ends, since he's immortal and he's going to live till the heat death of the universe. He can see his entire life as a singularity. So if that's the case, this other future version doesn't have that power, or does he? Because then he would know what he's going to do. Yeah, so you really start getting into paradoxes. If you think about that stuff too much, your brain will just melt out your ears. But yeah, again, fantastic conversations we could sit and have with Rom V. So, but anyway, that does it for the books we're going to talk about in detail this week. There is also an issue of Teen Titans Go. We're up to issue number 5 with that. We have some further printings of the Absolute series, Absolute titles. Absolute Batman number 2 getting a 5th printing. Absolute Superman 2 getting a 3rd printing. Absolute Wonder Woman 2 getting a 4th printing. And then in terms of collections, we have The Authority. Relentless is getting a DC Compact Comics edition. That's obviously, an Authority story from Warren Ellis, Brian Hitch on the art there. Speaking of Authority, there's also an omnibus hardcover that's coming out that collects all 29 issues of The Authority, plus a bunch of one-shots, annuals, that sort of stuff. With Mark Miller as the writer, Warren Ellis also wrote some of that, Tom Peyer, David Barron does the colors on that. Catwoman Volume 1 is getting a collected edition. This is the Torrin Grumbeck series, Catwoman series that's going on right now. DC's Finest Wonder Woman, The Legend of Wonder Woman, similar to the compact editions, this Finest format came out around the same time. Obviously, the compact ones are smaller. The DC Finest is regular comic size, but it's basically just collecting a bunch of different, really great examples of Wonder Woman stories, right? Or if it's Aquaman, it collects classic Aquaman stories, or whatever. And it's so eclectic, like the books that they pick. So this Legends of Wonder Woman trade paperback is basically giving you 1980s Wonder Woman in one volume with a bunch of different stories. So you have stories from Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman series itself, from issues 306 to 329, which I think 329 might have been the final issue.
Yeah, it was.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
had a Crisis crossover, and then
Yeah.
restarted after Crisis with George Perez with a new number one and what have you.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, you get a Legend of Wonder Woman miniseries that lasted 4 issues, a DC Comics Presents issue where she teams up with Superman, issue 76, and
Yeah.
of all things, Blue Devil number 10. An issue of Blue Devil in a Wonder Woman collection. Now, I remember reading Blue Devil back in the day,
Uh-huh.
and I
I
don't
got the
know
whole
for the life
series.
of me. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know what happened to my Blue Devil issues. I don't know what happened to them. I lost them at some point. So, I mentioned a couple times in recent podcasts that my LCS does a warehouse sale, 4 times a year. And whenever I'm digging through the dollar bins, I always look for Blue Devil issues. And I think I've managed to reassemble about half the series, but I'm missing issues here and there. I don't think I have number 10. So I'm going to have to go track that down because I really want to know
Mine's
what
in
Blue
storage.
Devil. Yeah, I want to know
I'm
what
not going to
that
track it
story
down.
is. So yeah, I'll have to find that. Anyway, moving on, we have an omnibus of the Deceased storyline, which collects all the series from Tom Taylor, uh, art by Trevor Hairsine for the most part. Uh, Detective Comics Volume 1. Again, this is the current run of Detective Comics from writer Tom Taylor with art by Mikhail Yanin. You can get that in hardcover or softcover. And then Nightwing Volume 1. Again, the current run of Nightwing with Dan Waters, art by Dexter Soy. Again, you have the choice of hardcover or softcover in that. And then from DC's young adult line, maybe young reader line actually is what I should say. They used to call it Zoom and Ink, and then they got rid of it, so not doesn't have branding anymore. But this is recommended for ages 5 through 7, and it is a hardcover. It's Superman's Good Guy Gang Book 1, and so basically, you have 8-year-old Clark Kent. Who's learning how to be a superhero alongside other superpowered kids such as Kendra Saunders, Guy Gardner, um, thought there were some others uh, mentioned as well. Batman and Wonder Woman and Mister Terrific as well. Future books in the series will include Mister Terrific, Batman, Wonder Woman, and more as the Good Guy Gang grows. So if you have young readers in that age group, 5 to 7, that you want to get interested in reading, interested in DC Comics, that Superman Good Guys Gang may be a great place to start. So that does it for the collections. Time for our rankings, book of the week. Rocky went first last week, so I'll jump on it this time. 9 books this week. Coming in at number 9, Batman 89 Echoes. Number 6 for the reasons I stated earlier. Number 8 for me is Batgirl. Number 9, but again, it's not a technically bad comic whatsoever. And if you are interested in the martial artists corner of the DCU, as Rocky is, be ranked much higher for you. And I would recommend it much higher than that if you do enjoy that martial arts corner. And also, in terms of, hey, Jade Tiger, Lady Shiva's son, alleged, it hasn't been 100% proven yet, Bronze Tiger's son. So, speculator wise, you might want to take a look at that. Number 7 is The Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma. Number 6, I have JSA number 9. Then for my top 5, at 5, I have Gotham City Sirens, Unfit for Orbit, number 1. That fantastic Despero story. Great final page of him. Birds of Prey, number 23, comes in at 4. Absolute Green Lantern, number 4, comes in at 3. At number 2, I have Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2, number 2. And then my book of the week is Secret Six, number 5. Again, just on the strength of the characterization from Nicole Maines and that fantastic art from Rain Barretto.
Oh.
Sorry, Roger Cruz, Rain Barretto on colors. Roger Cruz. So, all right, give us your rankings, Rocky.
Well, my rankings are coming in at number 10 was Teen Titans Go. 9 was Batman 89, number 6. Uh, uh, number 8, Secret Six 5. I like Secret Six. I just I don't know. I mean, it was just one of those things. I had to make some tough decisions. 7 was Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma 4. Coming at 6 was Justice Society of America number 9. My top 5, and in 5th place, Justice League v Godzilla and Kong 2. Number 4, Birds of Prey 23. Number 3, Absolute Green Lantern, issue 4. Coming in at number 2, Gotham City Sirens, Unfit for Orbit, number 1. Kudos to Leigh Williams. Just great job, entertained me as very entertaining. Number 1 for me, I have to say it was an easy pick for me. I never faltered. I went straight with Batgirl. I love it. I love what Tate Brummel's doing, and it's a high recommendation for me. I think this might be the second time this. I think I put the last issue at number 1 as well. My picks of the week. I've just been loving this series. So
I think you've picked every issue as book of
I,
the week.
I might have, but just for what it's worth, Cassandra Cain is my favorite DC character. But usually I get upset with the way Cassandra Cain's been written in the past. And it's sort of the opposite thing with Wonder Woman. I always say I love Wonder Woman, and I'm always complaining about Wonder Woman. With Cassandra Cain, I love Cassandra Cain, but I'm not complaining about Cassandra Cain anymore. So it's the opposite.
Well, so here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting about that. Like, yeah, so Cassandra Cain is your favorite character. So of course, her series would be your favorite when it comes out every week. But the argument I would make is for the past 3 issues,
Yeah.
so we haven't got any story about Cassandra Cain, so you wouldn't have anything to complain about.
Yeah, but to me, it's not about Cassandra Cain, though. It's about. I know your focus is always on the Batgirl, and it's a legitimate criticism. I'm not saying your criticism is wrong. It's a Batgirl comic, but to me, I'm so impressed that it's about more than Batgirl. That's what I love about it too. It's not just about Batgirl, and so all the things I love about those characters, they're all there. And so it's sort of like it feels like I'm going in for vanilla ice cream, but I'm getting all these flavors, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and again, which is fine if you're a fan of that. If you're a fan of that, Richard Dragon and Bronze Tiger and Lady Shiva and
Yeah.
all those characters, then yeah. And my argument then would be they should have called this something else. But then marketing wise, why they call it Batgirl, because it's going to sell better than if you call this Richard Dragon or Bronze Tiger or Lady Shiva, it wouldn't sell as well. Or call it
true.
DC Martial Arts Weekly or monthly or whatever. Again, it's not going to sell as well than if you put that Batgirl on there. I've said this before. I'm going to be really interested to see once this initial story's over, this Lady Shiva stuff's over, what's the book going to be like? Is it going to continue to lean into that? Like, I mean, this is nothing like the majority of the first Batgirl, Cassandra Cain Batgirl series was like. Where she was in Gotham, fighting against crime lords and what have you. Again, you're right in that we're getting other story, and I'm being facetious when I say it hasn't been about Cassandra Cain at all for the last 3 issues. We've gotten the Lady Shiva origin, but it's providing context so that we get more information and we understand. And it's starting with this issue why Cassandra Cain feels the way she feels, why she reacts, what she's basing her decisions on. We know she obviously has a complicated relationship with her mother, and if anybody thinks that Lady Shiva is actually dead, I also have a bridge in New York that I can sell you on the cheap. You can help fund my San Diego Comic-Con hotel this year. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Appreciate you joining us as always. Again, our condolences to family and friends of Jim Shooter. It's definitely a big loss for the comic book community. Don't forget that you can find the DC Spotlight as well as all of the other Comic Source content on our podcast feed. If you prefer to listen audio only while you're exercising, riding the subway, driving your car, what have you, just go to wherever you get your podcast, whatever app or platform works for you best. Do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. If you are listening audio only and you want to check out the art, see our smiling faces every week, remember the DC Spotlight comes out every week, late Tuesday, early Wednesday on Rocky's channel on YouTube, Comic Space Boom ! Once you're there, comment, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new content comes out. And as long as you're over there on YouTube, you should also do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe, because that's where all the other Comic Source content comes out. for the most part. I did do an interview last week with Edie Patterson. She plays Heather on Resident Alien, which is one of the few TV shows that I watch because it's absolutely hilarious and it's based on a comic. But it wasn't an interview where we were allowed to use the audio or the video. So it's print only. It's over on LRM online. It's a really short interview, but it was about the the episode that came out last Friday now, where she returns as Heather, which is the mother of Harry's little alien baby. And yeah, she was a lot of fun to talk to. But other than that, I haven't actually been doing too many interviews lately. I've been busy with other things, not least of which is getting my comic collection in order, and just taking a little bit of a break because I know San Diego is going to be absolutely insane. And I've been doing the first part of the year. I was doing so many interviews, like sometimes more than one a day, every day, and I just needed a little bit of a break. So anyway, appreciate the support as always. Make sure you're following us on social media. We're gonna have tons of pictures. We'll be taking so many photos at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con. I can't wait. Get out of this hot weather, get down there, hang out with Rocky and other friends, and have some nice drinks and just celebrate being a big giant comic book nerd. I can't
Sounds
wait.
like a plan.
So, yeah. So that's going to do it, everybody. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.